Welcome to Wine Library TV. I am your host, Gary Vaynerchuk, and this, my friends, is the Thunder Show, aka the internet's most passionate wine program. And it is Tuesday's episode. The Jets have played. Please tell me they've won. Please tell me they've won. But obviously we're airing this episode on Tuesday, but I did say that we would taste this wine 1 week later, which is the wonderful Domaine Leflaive 2007 Batard Montrachet Grand Cru, $430 US. So you can see some people have snuck in, I think, and tasted it a little bit. What I'd like you to do now is, we're going to do some editing, which we never do, but we're getting close to 1,000. So I'd like you to now splice in the entire review and information that we did from last week, and go. So Domaine Leflaive is, creme de la creme white Burgundy producer. This is their Batard Montrachet Grand Cru 2007. This wine rolls in at $430 US. 100% Chardonnay. How much of this is produced? Do you know? Do you recall?
They have how many acres of this? They have 2 parcels in Puligny and 2 parcels in Chassagne, so they have about 5 acres altogether. So that's a pretty significant. I think it may be their most significant holding of any of. They have parcels in all 4 of the Montrachet Grand Cru. Mm-hmm. But this is probably the biggest. And this unfortunately will not be at the tasting.
It's just one of those things that, there's just not enough. It's too expensive.
No, they're going to pour the Chevalier Montrachet, which is $550.
Get out of town.
Yes,
that's very special.
Yeah, no, and that wine. The Chevalier scored 90. I gave the Chevalier 96 points. I give this 95 points. The Chevalier is right on top of Montrachet, above the hill.
Yep.
And Batard is just below Montrachet on the hill. And I tend to be like a huge fan of Chevalier. I mean, I love the finesse of a Chevalier Montrachet. And Batard is bigger and richer and more
in your face.
Yeah, but they're both incredible wines.
When you get a Montrachet, when you get a white Burgundy of this quality, when you can smell the wine and you get the oak and you get all these like classic Chardonnay flavors, vanilla, but the integration on the nose, and we'll see what happens on the palate, is always so remarkable. Nothing spikes too much. It's like a symphony. It's just perfectly done.
One of the things that is interesting is the last three white wines, they've all been natural ferments, and part of that thing about nothing spiking, I associate that with a natural ferment.
Is that right?
Yeah, that it's a cooler, slower start to the fermentation, and usually they last very long. I mean, his ferment's gone for like 7 or 8 months at Weimer, and these people, they farm so meticulously and make their wines so carefully that you really don't get anything out of place at all. It's just, and it's not actually that old a domain. I mean, they've been in town for 3 centuries or something, but Joseph and Claude's grandfather, he started replanting in the 20s, and that's when the domain really began to take off. So it's not like it's not like DRC, which has all this long history. They're really, for all intents and purposes, they're really an 80-year-old or 90-year-old business. Mm-hmm. They were there for 300 years, but this business is probably about really 90 years old. And that's an incredibly short amount of time to create this incredible domain and this legacy.
It's insane. I mean, this is a top producer, one of the great, Burgundian producers of white wine, hands down. And what's really funny to me is how that wine works. You think about it. You go back 100 years, people did not respect this wine of this caliber. That's what I always get excited about when I see wines that are making, a resurgence. I think of Tokai, and I think about places, people used to value Tokai higher than First Growth Bordeaux. And I think what's really fun about this, by the way, just this whole darn thing of what I'm doing with this, I always imagine that like in 100 years, somebody's going to be watching this and be like, oh man, people used to think white Burgundy was good. It's all about New Jersey wine or what, but I mean, could you imagine watching something like this, let's say we were just born in a different time where online video has been around for 150 years. It'd be fascinating to watch how people respect it when they would have a Tokai and say, this Chateau Lafite stinks. I mean, that was the way it was. Or Chinon.
It was the great wine of the world.
Chinon. Loire Top Chinon, which now you can get for $40, regularly was more expensive than Bordeaux.
Well, Loire was the chic place.
Was it?
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Anyway, so let's give this a whirl.
Yeah, part of the reason I arranged the tasting this way was after I tasted this wine, I decided we couldn't really taste anything after it.
Matt, you got to try a $430 wine.
It's pretty extraordinary wine. I mean, it just...
And kudos to Wilson Daniels. They've done a nice job. I think they haven't bastardized this.
I mean, you can thank them for providing this bottle. They sent this bottle.
Is that right?
Along. Yeah.
Good job by them.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a really, I'm glad I did that then. Good job, But like, I've always been quite impressed with the way they've handled this. It's an allocated item, but it ends up in the right places. You see other things that haven't, and I think they've done a nice job. Really not controlling the market, but allowing this wine to be in the right hands, in the right places, and not collecting dust somewhere and being enjoyed.
Yeah, and I think that they understand the people making the wine very clearly, and they also, they get Anne-Claude Leflaive, and I think Anne-Claude Leflaive has a lot of respect for Wilson Daniels as an importer.
I believe it.
Yeah, and she's not an easy person to, she's so careful and so precise about everything she does that she's not going to take any bull from anybody. So, when you go and taste there, I was saying to Kristen earlier that you guys should look at this wine 3, 4, 5 days from now, because when you go to taste there, and Claude will show you wines right out of the barrel, right out of the tank, but she'll also show you bottled wine that's been opened for a week.
Well, you know what? So let's do this.
Yep.
Let's do this right now.
Recork it.
Recorking it.
And look at it.
You want it cold or you want it room temperature?
You can leave it as long as it's not hot.
It won't be hot.
Yeah, room temperature.
Put it right here,
fine.
Mott. I want you to zoom in. I'll put it right there. We're not going to touch it. And next week we're going to taste it.
Definitely, that would be very cool.
Yeah, we'll do it. It'll be a lot of fun. So this wine is phenomenal. What I would tell you is this, right off the bat. I would guarantee if you were here tasting along with this that you would be surprised how light it is. Now, let me just say this.
Light's an interesting word, but
it's a very interesting word, and that's why I said let me do this. Is why I did this move. It's not light, but the body is not the heaviest thing in the world. I think too many people, when they think about $300, $400, $500 white Burgundies, they think they're going to get this Kistler mouthfeel.
Yep.
This Peter Michael mouthfeel, or even there's a lot of white Burgundies that can be much heavier. Some Saint Montrachet that you can get really. It's not that. It's still got great weight. I don't think it's the mouthfeel of a Sancerre, but I will tell you, putting in average Joe language, I do feel people would be caught off guard. I noticed, Mott, in the background, your head kind of shook a little bit. Maybe you even were surprised by that. And that to me is interesting, that you can get so much flavor, so much intensity, so much weight, while still, and it kind of goes back to what we talked about with the two reds. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of my whole thing. When is it going to be talked about? When are we going to finally say, listen, there needs to be this push for wines that show great complexity and body, but don't put you to sleep. And I feel like the elegance and the freshness, and just I see this massive trend in our cuisine in this country.
Well, and Claude Leflaive is pushing for that. I mean, she started a whole school around, she has a concept about how she wants to make her wine, and she worked on that with Pierre Moret, who was her estate manager for years. And they experimented with biodynamics. They went completely over to biodynamics in '97, and now she's got a school teaching people about natural winemaking. And I think one of the things you're reacting to in this wine is the fact that the vineyards are so beautifully tended that that you've gotten all this incredible power of expression in the wine without a lot of weight. And
it's remarkable, really.
Yeah. When you get a New World wine, you often get a lot of fruit sweetness, a lot of weight on the palate, and some flavor. Here it's just the reverse. You get all this flavor without that sweetness and weight.
You know how I almost want to put it? If you've had an amazing Kobe beef pat, it's like you can just tell when you eat the difference between really high quality product and not. You just can. There's just a fundamental difference between the way you taste a Big Mac and the way you taste a Shake Shack burger, and the way you taste a really high-end burger that you make at home, on the grill, and just it's different. And that's what I get here. It just fundamentally tastes different, while still giving me not just the same amount of flavor, but more. Yeah. And to me, more flavor, less baggage is really fascinating.
Yeah.
It's a fascinating thing that I'd like to see happen much, much more across the board in the wine world.
I mean, I think a friend gave me some apples a couple weeks ago as a present for doing something for him, and they were these huge, big
Really,
red
that
apples.
big?
One of them was like this big. It was like
like
a
a
monster
pumpkin?
apple. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they must have been pumped up with some kind of, I don't know how they got to be that big. They didn't taste like anything. And I've got heirloom apples at my place that are about this big, that have so much flavor in them, and it tastes like a little golden delicious apple.
Did you
but
just
more,
diss
more
your friend?
flavor. I just dissed my friend. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it. I hope he watches. I'm like, oh man, little
Here's to you, Matt.
Matt. He's just trying to paint a picture. It's nothing personal. You didn't know. You were doing a nice thing. We like you, Matt. Okay, so I know a lot of you guys watch every episode, so you probably jumped fast ahead, and that's that, and that's fine. But if you didn't remember or you didn't catch the episode, as you can see, during last week's show, I promised that I would taste this wine 1 week later, and now I'm sure the wonderful people at Domaine Leflaive have not been happy that it's been sitting over here the whole, oh, I grabbed it, I should have left it there, Mott, and showed that it didn't move. But nonetheless, was not prime conditions. There was no dark, temperature-controlled scenario. This wine has literally been sitting on my table right there for 1 full week. And so let's see what it's doing 1 week later and seeing how much it's matured. I'll be very honest with you. I think you guys know me. I'm in Jets mode right now, so I don't even remember what I said. So let's see how much it compares to what I said a week ago. Sniffy sniff. Now the nose is definitely, from what I can recall, because I guess my memory's not that bad, is a little bit more aromatically challenged. It feels like some of the aroma has left the building. Little Elvis, Tom Jones-like. Still don't understand the Tom Jones thing, Mott. Like, girls throw panties at the man.
It was the whole 60s.
There's a little honey coming through on the nose. That is probably the biggest component I can pick up. A little bit of apple, and almost like a mustard covering an apple kind of thing going on. Let's give it a whirl. A lot of people just got mad I spit a $430 bottle. I just saw that. Somebody left a great comment. I don't even know what's going on right now. You lost me after you spit the $430 bottle. You idiot. Understood. So, on the palate, very rich, very bright. Would never think that this wine was opened a week ago. Has a great apple, pear, honey flavoring going on. Great weight. Not the heaviest wine in the world, which I think could catch some people off guard given the price point. But good medium to full-bodied weight. Good long finish. It feels a little less vibrant than it did a week ago from what I can recall. I also had great company, so maybe I was jazzed up. A little hint of melon and cantaloupe. I like the sour apple flavor going on. Really nice stuff. The way it's showing today, if I was just drinking it straight, I'd probably call it a 93-point wine. I think that's lower than I scored it last week. I think last week 96 was it? 95 plus. Anyway, so that would be the first thing. I think it's lost a little bit of its oomph, but for a wine that's just been sitting on a counter for a week, in non-ideal temperatures, it's holding up extremely well. I get a little nutty component now on the finish that I don't recall from last week. You'll have to leave a comment and let me know because you just watched the recap. All in all, though, a very fascinating kind of, experiment, and very important for me to kind of push the envelope with you guys and show you different dynamics. After 1,000 episodes, you want to mix it up. So it's kind of interesting to revisit a wine 1 week later, and I hope you enjoyed the process on this tight episode and learned something, I hope. All in all, it shows quite nice. It's really well made. You can just taste the pedigree. And if anything, if I can recall properly, it's a hair lighter and lost a little bit of its oomph, but not as much as you maybe would think. Good wine, great producer, great wine out of the bottle, and a wine that probably can last another 15 to 20 years easily. And that's kind of where I'm at. So, question of the day. What is the best wine experience you've ever had after letting a wine sit for a long period of time? So if you were to... love to hear some stories. You opened a wine, a week later you forgot it was even open, tried it and was much better, one of the best wines. 24 hours later, a wine that you loved, your best. And you know what? To get some more comments out, because I love them. The worst experience. Maybe a great wine, a day later, tasted like rancid oil mixed with like 4-day-old water that's in a puddle after a rainstorm. You ever do that, Mott? You ever touch water or, like be in the presence of water that's been sitting still for a long period of time? It gets kind of touched and the stank comes out. It's like a nice burgundy. You, with a little bit of me, we are changing the wine world.